Alright, we should be live. We are back. We are working on Teval, Arbiter of Virtue. Here she is in case you need a reminder of how she works. And we are down to 108 cards, which means we still need 48 cuts before this deck is done. I'm really hoping, and we should, in theory, be able to get it done before the pre-release, but oh boy, is it extra difficult this time. So the biggest problem is that everything still on the list is actually very good in Teval, and we really need to eliminate a bunch of cards that are perfectly fine and serviceable, or at least worth trying out in this deck, and then just be left with the actual finished product, which somehow has to be the best I can do with the information that I have. Yeah, without having played any of these cards in this type of deck, with Teval against other players, I don't know which ones are actually as good as I think they're going to be. So, and usually that's not too much of an issue, between all of the commander decks I have built and played with, and the general idea of building the deck, I'm fine, but sometimes I get to the point where it's like, no, all of these cards are good, and I'm not 100% sure which ones I should be taking out. Because a lot of them are stuff I would want to at least try in Teval before I took them out and replaced them with other things, but we're so deep into this now that that's not going to work anymore. We need to cut enough stuff so that we have a good Teval shell to play with, and then later on figure it out. Like, do I cut Sidisi? Do I cut Emery? Might be Emery before Sidisi, but being able to cast the artifacts that I've milled that are actually useful without having to get Muldrotha online and keep Muldrotha alive, because Muldrotha does not live very long once she's in play. There's a very high priority kill target for most players. At least she has been in my experience. I'm looking at this and I'm thinking Grim Feast from the life gain section. I think Grim Feast is actually really good in this deck because all of their stuff dying is going to give me a ton of life. We already cut the Sangromancer. I think Grim Feast is the better of the two. Like everything else, I hate cutting it. Everything on this list is something I hate cutting. Like, we have our Verdant Sun's avatar for us to gain life off of casting our creatures or just having the tokens hit the battlefield, but would not mind. Because at that point, the argument is then do I cut Fangren Marauder, where I gain 5 life when an artifact dies? Well, the Grim Feast is only my opponents, the Fangren is everything, but I've also cut most of my treasure, and I have very little food production. So, gaining the 5 life off of that is more contingent on what my opponents are doing. And at least with Grim Feast, I have a bunch of different Wraths that I can play. Yep. This is where I'm at. Every single thing still on this list is at least worth considering playing with. What about the big spells? Is there anything I don't need from down here? Out of all the big spells, I think Void Winnower is the least impressive. It is the one that can most easily just die and not do anything relevant out of all of them. I guess technically, things like Mortarion could also fit in that category, but Mortarion only needs to make it till my end step. Um, the Void Winnower needs it so that opponents just can't cast the relevant spells at the time, which, it's eliminating 50% of the casting costs, so shouldn't be that hard to do it, but I am thinking that out of all of them, it is the one that can most easily do nothing. Yeah, with the one demon from Warhammer, at the very least, if I make it to my end step, it's going to make tokens because I lost life for casting it in the first place, so any leftover mana I have, up to all of its colorless requirements, can be spent that turn. Make an army of 2/2s. Whereas Void Winnower, like, even if it lives through my end step, if anybody has odd mana cost sorcery removal, Void Winnower is probably going to die before it gets back around to me, which means it didn't really do all that much. Maybe it messed up like one or two players for a turn before it died. Maybe made them play suboptimally for most of a turn cycle. Yeah, I think Void Winnower is the one I can most comfortably cut. And I need to cut some things, so alright, Void Winnower, you are off the list officially. Alright, brings us down to 107. Alright, let's take a look at the list proper and see if anything sticks out now as more cuttable than it was before. Animate Dead, no. Demonic Tutor, Soul Ring, Mana Drain, Nature's Lore, Force of Will, Grim Feast. There's still a slight argument to Mystical and Worldly Tutor, but I do draw enough cards that I probably can't cut them. And we do have enough relevant things to tutor for in both card types. Like, we have a whole host of different interaction and card draw for Mystical Tutor to go grab, and we have a bunch of different utility creatures for Worldly to go grab, so it's not like we're just getting like one or two specific cards each time where another black tutor would be more versatile and we just cut like most of them out and put one singular black tutor in. Give me more consistency. Wait, scroll rack. Search, Entomb. Old time stretch. Traumatize. I swear I'm gonna cut Traumatize and replace it with the Blue Village at this rate, just to make room. Mental Note. I'm looking at Entomb. There are certainly cards that I want in my graveyard, but now that we've cut the Golgari Grave Troll and all but two, well, technically three of the straight up reanimator spells. Is it possible, despite my graveyard theme, that I don't need Entomb? Entomb's biggest thing right now is that turn 1 Entomb, turn 2 Animate Dead, or Reanimate are still things that the deck is capable of doing. So, in that regard, still a very good card. It also lets me entomb things like Mist Hollow Griffin and then exile them and recast them. Two cards that do that are in the deck. Maybe that's just not good enough at this point. Yeah, maybe that's just not good enough at this point. If I'm being completely honest and really that desperate for cuts. Damnation. Do I seriously consider cutting Polluted Bonds? The format does not allow opponents to stop for the most part on like 6 or 7 mana. They need to keep playing lands and doing stuff, so if Polluted Bonds sticks around and drains, it has to drain 3 times to get back any life loss from Teval, and it being like if I cast it after Teval, but shouldn't be that hard. Like somebody's got to blow it up very quickly, and then they're blowing up that instead of one of my other powerful enchantments. So the only problem there is if I don't have any others, or if they blew up everything. You know, if they just pulled the trigger on a Farewell or an O-Stone or something. That was just a little bit too much between that one and all the other ones. Honestly, I like Bloodchief Ascension more than Polluted Bonds. It does less damage to me, and it doesn't take that much to get it fully charged, and once it is, it's way too powerful. Like, it almost needs to be killed before a whole lot of other stuff can happen. And it also allows us to kill an opponent out of nowhere with that plus, like, Traumatize or something. I do like the Hedron Crab, especially all my fetch lands. I have Replication, Sanguinate, Consecrate Sphinx, Fangren Marauder, Arn, Thought Scour, Exquisite Blood, Mist Hollow Griffin, Erebos, Corsair, Sidisi. Looking at the Torrent Elemental, and it makes me wonder if I should cut the Mist Hollow Griffin. Like, the Torrent Elemental is the superior creature for 1 extra mana to resurrect it. It has 2 extra toughness and the ability to tap all creatures the defending player controls when it attacks. Which should allow me to force through a lot of damage. Whereas Mist Hollow Griffin is just a 3/3 flyer. Well, that's not terrible. I desperately need room, and it's a little bit lower impact. It is a little sad that I only have one creature that's constantly coming back and then dying and then getting exiled again. But just don't have room for enough of these things. Noxious Gear Hulk, Disallow, Intervention. This is one of those ones, do I need intervention if I have counter spells? The answer is sometimes. The biggest thing about intervention is being able to save my things without protecting everybody else's stuff. You know, I can counter the wrath, but sometimes I won't want to. Sometimes I'll just want to save my things and let everybody else's stuff die. Rotha, Tadiova, Assassin's Trophy. Do I cut Doom Whisperer? It does chew through my life total to surveil the cards into the graveyard until I find the things I most want. And my life total is already the resource that I'm putting the most pressure on. It's one of the biggest bottlenecks in the deck is that I can't cast things if I don't have the life total. So I can actually get into a position where I can't cast the spells to gain the life in the first place. Yeah, that might be where I'm at. As far as being able to cut a card like Doom Whisperer. We already cut both of the other two that do the thing that Lithiform Engine is in the deck to do. But Lithiform Engine is not limited to card type, and its copies of things don't go away until they're killed outright, as opposed to like Minion Reflector, which will make me sacrifice the thing at end of turn anyway. So yeah, I think I still keep Lithiform Engine for right now. Find something less impressive to cut first. Definitely keeping Sholdred. Sunder, Breach Multiverse. Yeah, I'm still considering Breach as like one of my big splashy spells that I cut, but it is very, very powerful. Beanstalk should probably stay as one of my premier card draw spells. I have so many things that trigger it. Might be Chalk Outline. The problem is that thing generates advantage over the course of the game. It also is one of the ways to make artifacts I can sacrifice for Fangren Marauder. Every time a creature leaves my graveyard, I get a 2/2 and a clue. So with the Marauder, that's a 2/2, 5 life, and draw card. Without the Marauder, it's still a 2/2 and a draw card. Yeah, it costs mana that I can't reduce to activate, but at the same time, because I can reduce the actual casting cost of spells, I might still be able to cast the thing that I draw off of it. And if I can, I might trigger it again and make another 2/2 and make another clue token, depending on if I have dead creatures I'm willing to get rid of. It could be Imperial Seal. At least with the other ones, I can just do it before my draw step on the turn, or during the end step, before I untap and draw. With Imperial Seal, I have to have the card draw spell available also, regardless of what it actually is. Which we do have a lot of card draw that would get the card into my hand. Some of it very cheaply. But I'm so desperate to cut things out of this deck. I think it might actually be Imperial Seal. Imperial Seal is always a little wonky. Like, you really need the card draw consistently in order for it to work. Or you have to be getting something that it's almost impossible for the board to shift in such a way that you didn't get the right card. And that one's a lot harder to do than it sounds like it is. Appropriate. Archon Cruelty. 6. Yeah, no, I really do genuinely love all of the cards that are still on the list. As I'm going through it, it's like, I really don't want to cut any of these. Alright, I think Doom Whisper is on one of the sublists. And Entomb should be also. In fact, Entomb should be, like, at the top of this one, yeah. Alright, so we cut 4 cards. We're down to 103. We are almost below 100 cards. So we're almost at the point where technically we have a commander deck, even if I don't have any lands in it. Alright, let's look at the sublists again. This is the big payoff sublist. We're doing all this setup. Like, what crazy spells am I actually going to be casting? Can any of them go? Or can I fix that down here? Side of the L. Rotha, Jingataxis, Breach, Doppelgang, Ugin, Expropriate, Archon. Yeah, maybe it's Mortarion. Like, I don't want to cut the Lord of Change because reanimating that thing just to draw 3 cards is going to be good. Casting it to draw 3 cards is going to be good. It's a Treasure Cruise with Flying and Ward 3 and a 6/6 body. This deck. So. Mortarion does only work when our commander is constantly hitting us. But he does do work in that situation. But if we're taking the big hits, we need to be gaining the life, and I don't have. I only have the Verdant Sun's Avatar because we took out the Essence Warden, so. I only have one creature fall gain life thing going on right now. Yeah, I think we can cut Mortarion out of the remaining ones. I'm looking at Colossal Grave Reaver, which is still just a very good card in our deck. It's one of the hardest things left to cast if we don't have our commander in play. And the other ones that are that hard to cast, most of them are going to be winning me the game on the spot. Close to it. I guess that's not entirely true. I'm looking at some of the other 8s that I can see, and it's like, it's not that much different from an Archon of Cruelty. Like, cards like Expropriate, Time Stretch, even Breach can do a lot more damage than the Grave Reaver can, but it really requires a bit of setup for Astral Dragon to be better, and Archon of Cruelty is probably better, but not so much so. And depending on what the Colossal Grave Reaver can get back, which will be random, of course, Grave Reaver can be better, or can actually be that thing also. It's the mystery box. It could be whatever he wanted. It could even be the other creatures that are on this list. You know how much I've wanted all of those. I think the biggest problem with it right now is that its comes into playability is to put cards back in my graveyard for the next spell I cast, and then maybe do something really cool. Like, Lord of Change is going to draw me 3 cards. Astral Dragon, we're assuming I have a permanent I want to make 2 copies of. If I'm casting in the first place, Archon's going to do all of the Archon things when it comes in. So maybe that's the argument for Colossal Grave Reaver. It has the most chance to just fail if it comes into play and then dies before getting to do anything else. For 8 mana, whereas all the other things are going to do their thing, barring some Elish Norn, Stifle, shenanigans, where I just don't get my ETB. Yeah, I don't think I'm prepared to cut any of the other ones right now. Alright, that's two at least. Alright, life gain pile. Do you have anything that is pure life gain I don't need, or anything that's in here for a little bit of life gain and a little bit of something else, and the two together aren't good enough? Grim Feast, Polluted Bonds, Blood Chief Ascension, Basilisk Collar, Exsanguinate, Sangrin, Exquisite Blood, Whip of Erebos, Courser, Gear Hulk, Avatar, Tadiova, Shadow Spear, Dredger's Insight. Yeah, the problem with this list is that everything that's low impact in the life gain department is doing something else. Like getting me card advantage, like the Courser being able to play the land off the top, or Tadiova letting me draw a card for landfall. Um, Dredger's Insight is milling me early and then paying me off for the rest of the game with incidental life gain. Like, I almost wonder if it's Basilisk Collar at this point. Like, I have the Shadow Spear, I have the Whip of Erebos. Do I need a third way to give creatures that don't already have lifelink? And the answer is kind of in a 100-card deck. Although, to be fair, if I can hit the opponents, the Exquisite Blood and Conqueror are basically super lifelink at that point, but I still benefit from the creature also having lifelink innately in those scenarios. Yeah, I'm worried something like Grimfeast is going to go just because I have to cut something off of the sublist, and as much life as it can gain me, it might not be the best card in the deck for what it's trying to do. Ground Crab, Thought Scour, DC. It might be Emery. I have other ways to get back permanents that have gone to the graveyard. It's just that Emery is really good with things like Mindslaver. But the problem is Muldrotha's really good with all the permanent types. Shigeki can get back most things that I would need. The downside is Shigeki can't get back legendary things, so if I lose, like, the Shadow Spear or Alhamrat's Archive or something, or Mindslaver for that matter, Shigeki can't get that back either. Right, I'm not forgetting how Shigeki works. Oops. Return X target non-legendary cards from your graveyard to your hand. Okay, so I do remember exactly how Shigeki works. Where's my pull back from the graveyard? So we have Animate Dead, Reanimate, Eternal Witness, Whip of Erebos, Muldrotha, Emery Shigeki, Awaken the Honored Dead, which can only get back a creature or land. So 6 is my other way to get back legendary things, and 6 itself is legendary, so if 6 dies, although 6 is a creature, and I do reanimate creatures a lot more easily than I reanimate artifacts or enchantments. The other option is to cut Sidisi and just not make 2/2s when I mill myself. I do need to mill creatures, but I do have a lot of them on the list still. Sidisi's better if she can attack. Emery's better if we're just in a stall situation, because I can grind out some extra value by getting back my artifacts. Whereas if Sidisi can attack more than once, she's not going to be able to put enough things into my graveyard to be relevant. But when Sidisi's good, she's better than Emery. Like, being able to play an attack with Sidisi and keep making a bunch of 2/2s while filling my graveyard. Like, I do think these two are kind of jockeying for the same space, but they're still... They've got a comparable thing, but then they've got very non-comparable things going on. So it's an apples to oranges. They're both fruit, but they are not even kind of the same after you get past that. But it's like, I'm not going to cut Overlord of the Baelmerk. And that's just a better version of both of them, I think. So the question is, which one of the inferior self-mill cards do I want to get rid of? Maybe it is Sidisi because I like the grindy potential of Lurker more than the Brood Tyrant's ability to produce bodies. I do think it's close, though. I don't have a ton of Reanimator anymore. Where are we at? We're about halfway through today's session. Alright, so... Get rid of DC. Grave Reaver here, and the one that's in another section. So there's overlap. And Mortarion. Alright, 3 more cards off the list. We are at 100. Every cut now adds another land to the deck until we've added 40 lands to it. Alright, we're making progress. Need to get at least a few more cuts today. And then we'll cut about 10 cards. Because if I can cut at least 10 cards each time, we will be done by the pre-release, so... And that is my goal right now, is just to be done by the pre-release for the next set. So that way we can start in on a Final Fantasy Commander. I don't even know which one I'm going to pick. There's like 10 billion legends in that set, and there are some with like crazy abilities. Yeah, we'll figure that one out once I'm done building this deck. If we're not running Entomb, are we not running Gifts Ungiven then? Like, I kind of feel like they're both on the list for the same primary reason. Is to put some cards in my graveyard and maybe give me access to something. Yeah, I can see that argument being made. Yeah, I need more volume for the most part than specific cards going to the graveyard, so. Now, granted, there will be times where I want a specific card in the graveyard so that I can do something cool with it, but how many cuts we actually need? It's fine, we are making cuts. We'll get there eventually. Just need to find a few more. It's gonna be really bad when I cut Emery also. Be like, yeah, no, we don't actually need either of them. It can be Lithoform Engine. I do think being able to copy the spells by spending mana when we have so many ways to not have to spend the full amount of mana on things. Primarily our commander, but, that's still more than enough. The spell is normally a 6-drop, and I only have to spend 2 mana on it. That means I have 4 mana left over, in theory, for Lithoform Engine, so. Okay. Soothing breaths. Just find find the next card that's no longer good enough. As we whittle away cards, something has to have gotten into the status of like worst cards still on the list, or there have to be some contenders for that spot. That's the card that we're looking for to cut out, so that way the next card in line for that can wind up on the chopping block. Just not seeing it right now. Alright. This should be down here in the self mill. Also. Alright, so 99. Which at least is a significant enough number, because we're below 100, that I feel like I accomplished something. Even if it's not quite good enough yet. Yeah, no, this seems fine, this tiny amount of ramp, given how Teval works. Is Frantic Search just too low impact? Fixing the colored mana is a really cool thing. It does get me around one of the choke points for the deck. But that's all it can do, besides put cards in my graveyard. Which, to be fair, is a thing I am interested in doing, but. Yeah, if I need cuts that badly, Frantic Search might just be the way to go. Like, I would rather have Mental Note and Thought Scour in the deck than Frantic Search as a way to draw a card and put some cards in my graveyard. Just in general, so. Yeah, okay, let's get rid of Frantic Search. Nothing else is popping out as the thing I need to get rid of now, but single cut helps a little bit. Alright. Yeah, Almzu is making giant insects. Like, if I exile anything with a significant casting cost as part of the thing, and it only has to be one card also, so I'm just like, I'm probably not getting this Ulamog back anymore. She makes an 11/11 menace. Menace token, and then either they're killing that or, it's going to have Menace forever unless they can't kill it but can kill Amzu, which is kind of weird. That means that their thing either kills spells with higher casting costs or permanents with higher casting costs and can't target the token, or it kills smaller creatures. And those are really the only two where they shouldn't be able to kill the giant Doomsday token instead. Yeah, even if we get like a 6-drop or something, like she made a 7/7 token just by existing. Deathclaw stays, Lord of Change stays. Judgment is just way too good. Every mode on that thing is useful in this deck to a degree, and can't imagine cutting it. Temur. Their Teval works way too well with herself. Unsurprisingly, both versions of Teval are kind of on the same page about what they should be doing. That's milling and rewarding me for cards leaving the graveyard. The other Teval doesn't do either. It pays me off for having milled myself and gives me a way to remove cards from the graveyard. Alright, we're coming up on the 50-minute mark, and we did get below 100 cards, so just gonna see if anything stands out. I'm looking at Swiftfoot Boots, but I do still kind of want it. This is primarily a creature-based deck, and a lot of the creatures have not only comes into play abilities, but attack triggers. So being able to get both in the same turn, the ones that are still on the list, like Archon, or just being able to protect things like Consecrated Sphinx, and also be able to attack with it that turn, I still think is too useful. Like, I've definitely built decks where the creatures don't need to be able to attack the turn they come down and don't necessarily need Hexproof or Shroud in order to be protected, so I definitely see cutting the boots if that were the case, but I think we still have enough where I'd be rewarded for keeping it. Yeah, I'm looking at Glar, but I don't think I can cut him. I tap to Surveil 2 and letting me cast all my expensive stuff, but still letting me play lands off the top of my library. If he did not have the land option, if he was just I can play cards with higher casting costs off the top of my deck, I might be able to talk myself into cutting him, but getting to play the lands off of the top, so getting that Courser of Krufix value while being able to surveil and cast my expensive spells. I think it's just a little too good still. He can just throw cards into my graveyard, not at a very impressive rate, but it's repeatable at least. Yeah, we're technically at time and I'm slowing down. But maybe as I bang my knee against the desk. Yep. Yeah, right now I'm not seeing anything, but I think that's because I've been staring at the list too much. We can probably. Well, we have to find more stuff anyway, but we can probably find a few things at the start of the next stream that I just can't see right now. Can't see as being things I should be cutting. As opposed to just, not noticing the card on the list. Which I think is how Entomb had stayed on. Like, my brain just glossed right over it. It's like, it's Entomb, it needs to be in the deck. But as soon as I focused on it for a second, it's like, does it still need to be in the deck? And the answer was, probably not. Yeah, I'm not focusing too much on any of the cards. Staring at the list for too long starts to wear me down, so I need to take the break anyway. And yeah, we're back at the top. Alright, so I think we call it there. We got it under 100 cards. So that's not the worst. I'm not sure if we cut 10 cards today. I feel like we only cut 9 or something. But at least we got it below 100. So 38 more cuts and the deck is done. So that'll do it for me for right now. I don't know if I'll be back on drafting later today. We did make Mythic yesterday, and the new set's coming out. Like, yeah, we have a full week, so maybe. But the problem is I have content backlogged for YouTube, like, up through the set's release. Like, even if I release things over the weekend, so... So, yeah, it's... I don't need to do anything else, and I'm not sure that I necessarily want to. Like, just save all the resources for the new set coming out, maybe. But, yeah, we'll figure something out. I'll slay the Spire for a little while or something. But that's going to do it for me for right now, so thank you for watching, and I will see you next time. Have a good rest of your day.